Hello, everyone. Hello, Sunny and Jasper. Hello, Tanya and Benjamin and Athena. Aloha, Xin Chao. All right, welcome everybody. I'm a bit tired, so I'm a little bit low energy today. I'll probably get better as I go, but I'm a little slow feeling right now. I feel slow. So we're going to take it easy and work our way into this topic. Yeah, Kevin, that would be a good idea, but I have insomnia, so I just don't sleep well. Hello, Ozma, and hello, Ron. How are you? Good to see you. And hello, Lynn. What's the topic? Crashman wants to know, or Kraman wants to know. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. Today's stream is called Mark's Musings. Mark's Musings means a musing is something that you think about, something that you contemplate or consider, an idea, right? Something that you're thinking about a lot is a musing. So we're going to talk about some quotes and then discuss why they're important or what they mean, you know, whatever, anything about that, what you feel when you hear about that quote. Okay? Okay, let's start with this quote. Here is the first quote for today. Knowledge is power, but enthusiasm pulls the switch. Enthusiasm pulls the switch. So, What do you think that means? You've been sleeping better since you started taking a German nutrient. Which nutrient would that be? Knowledge is power, but enthusiasm pulls the switch. What does that mean? What does that mean? That enthusiasm is the key to learning. Um, yeah, it's the key to learning. And it's the key to using knowledge too. When you have knowledge, knowledge is best found with enthusiasm, and knowledge is best used with enthusiasm. So it's not just about how you find it, but also how you use it. You need to use your enthusiasm, or I'm sorry, use your knowledge with enthusiasm, right? Which I often use the word passion. I prefer the word passion um, for the idea of enthusiasm. To be passionate about things. Boris, I'm drinking what I drink every day. Iced coffee. Me says enthusiasm is the trigger to success. Yes, that's good. Without enthusiasm, knowledge will be shut out of your door. Well, probably. Probably. Athena, the way I kind of consider it is knowledge without enthusiasm is like going out in the cold without a coat. Will you die out in the cold without a coat? Maybe not. You might be okay. But if you have a coat, you'll be better and you'll be able to keep going. So enthusiasm is like a protection that helps you push forward more, right? It's a feeling of comfortability that comes just like when you put on a coat, you feel more comfortable out in the cold weather, right? So, what I mean is, I know people who have learned things really well without any enthusiasm. They've done it because they were forced to in some way, shape, or form. You know, some pressure forced them into doing something. And they learned very well. But once they've learned without enthusiasm, it's very difficult to engage and use your knowledge with enthusiasm. If you never used enthusiasm to learn it, then you're probably not going to be able to use it when you want to use your knowledge, if you understand what I mean. Knowledge means all the things you know. All the things that you learn are your knowledge. Okay? Knowledge gives you power, but enthusiasm turns it on and makes it work. Yeah, right. You know, knowledge is the engine, but an engine needs gasoline or oil to make it work, right? So that's your enthusiasm. That's why the Chinese say "jiao," means more gas. So there's our first quote for the day. The quote that we just said, "Knowledge is power, but enthusiasm pulls the switch." It comes from a a woman named Yvonne Ball, and she was an American writer, and she wrote a lot of humorous, interesting insights, what we call aphorisms. Uh, Aphorisms are short, memorable sayings like this one. They're similar to um, idioms, aphorisms. Aphorisms are good. As a matter of fact, we can learn some more aphorisms today. That can be what we work on as our musings, right? So let's do that. Let's look at some. Give me engineer Rajab wants me to tell him my favorite book. I don't really have a favorite book. I don't know. I have some books that I really like, but when you like music, you like the idea of music more than you like the individuals who do it. That's how I feel about writing as well. So, do I have many people who I like who have written things that I like? Yes, absolutely. But what I like is writing. Do I have lots of musicians and bands that I like who are some of my favorites? Yes, but what I really like is the idea of music itself. So when you ask me what's my favorite book or my favorite whatever, um, my mind has a hard time choosing one because I'm not used to considering individual pieces. I'm used to considering the grand concept more. You're looking at the flower in the field, and I'm looking at the field. Get it? Is there any relationship between enthusiasm or desire? Well, Rayan, let's start with the linguistic relationship between enthusiasm and desire. They are cousins in meaning, right? To have desire to do something is a form of enthusiasm. Desire is usually um, a word we use. It means to like something with with love or passion, right? So let me look at the word desire here. To wish or long for, to express a wish or obtain. From the Latin word desiderare, meaning to long for. Uh, Interesting. So the original meaning of desire is actually from the stars. It means like destiny, actually, the original meaning of desire. So when you say I desire something, it means I long for something, I hope for something, I wish for something. Um, So that means to have desire for something. I don't know if you can have desire for something without having enthusiasm. So that's how they're related. Okay? Hello, Carolina. All right, so that was our first quote for the day. Let's see, one moment. Let me just adjust this very quickly. All right, let's try this again. All right, we'll start with this one. Here is the next aphorism. Hello, Ornella and Savannah. We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. What does that mean? What do you think that means? Hello? Is this thing on? Come on. If you want to practice your English, then practice. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. If you want to be a student, then you must learn. And learning involves engaging. So right now, you must engage. I used to tell my students, we don't allow any inanimate students. Inanimate students. Inanimate means not moving, not animated. You must be animated. Animate yourself. Give yourself animus. All right, let's see. Carolina says we do as well as we can. We do as well as we can. Okay. Athena says we're used to staying in our comfort zone. Okay. Lynn says it highlights the importance of daily processes and routines. And that's kind of what we're trying to get at here. So what this is about, we do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. What this really means is, this is why I'm always talking about, do you have a plan? What is your plan? If you don't have a plan, then you are in trouble. Okay? And in this case, she's using the word, I'm sorry, he's using the word system. Okay, so a system is a process that you create, and it's usually a habitual one, a habit, right? So it's a habit. It's a way of doing things every day the same way, but it's a good way. So the question is, do you have a good way or not? How good is your system, right? Now, this is difficult for many, many people, including myself, because there are some people in this life who they their mind works very well in a very organized and rigid system. And so setting up these types of plans and systems works well for them. But there are other people whose brains are a little bit more what we now call divergent. Divergent means different, basically. And it just means that there are some people who their minds are more spontaneous and a little bit more flexible. So their strength is not in their rigidness or their consistency of behavior. Their strength is in their flexibility of behavior and their ability to improvise and be spontaneous. And somewhere in there, you have everybody, right? So there are some people who are more towards the systematic, rigid way of doing things, and there are some people who are more towards the spontaneous, improvised way of doing things. And you could be here or here or here, somewhere in there. Okay? But it's important to think about, and it's important to consider what system you have and what type of person you are. Because once you know which person you are you more of a systematic, rigid type person, or are you a more flexible, spontaneous type person? Whichever type of person you are, it tells you which methods you need to focus on more to be successful. So, how do I put this? You have to balance your abilities or disabilities. So, what that means is if you're not good at planning things, then you need to consider that more, right? That's your weakness, so you need to focus on it more. Just like if you had an injury to your foot. If your foot was broken, when your foot is broken, you have to focus on your foot more because it's broken, right? That doesn't mean you can't walk. It doesn't mean you can't do things. It doesn't mean you won't heal and be able to walk better in the future. It just means that right now you have a disability, and that disability is something you must focus more on in order to create balance. Okay? Does everybody understand? I'm getting a little bit deep, I know, but that's the way I feel today. So it's about understanding, one, that you need a good system to achieve your goals. And then two, you have to figure out what type of person you are. Are you the kind of person who is more systematic and organized, or are you the kind of person who's more flexible and spontaneous? And then once you figure out which type of person you are, now you have to figure out how to balance that. So if you're more spontaneous, then you need to figure out what you can do to work on your planning to be more consistent. If you are more rigid and more of an organized planner, then you need to figure out how you can balance with more flexibility and spontaneity. Okay? You're very flexible. Yeah, I'm more of a flexible person. I'm more of a spontaneous, improvised, flexible person. So that means that I really do struggle, and I have to work on my systems of balance to make sure I'm more organized or systematic. And it's a struggle. It's difficult. It's very difficult for me. But understanding the way I am does make it a little bit easier, right? If you don't understand who you are and how you are, then it's hard to adjust to what you are. Okay? Athena says, your goal is like the moon, a practical plan is the stairs to the moon. Right. Yeah. A balance between our character and the thing that makes us succeed. So what I mean is, if you understand what type of character you are, then you'll know which method works best for you. And you know what your weakness is so that you can figure out a way to deal with your weakness. Okay? And that's what I call balancing, right? Where, okay, maybe you have a strength and a weakness. Okay, great. Now that you know that you have a strength and your weakness, many people before and still now, I think many people, when they consider their weaknesses and their strengths, their strengths and their weaknesses, they think, oh, well, that's just how I am. I'm just better at this and I'm worse at this, so that's it. I don't do anything about it. But I think that's a huge mistake. That when you know what your strength is or what your weakness is, okay, good, that's a good start. But now you have to figure out, how can I balance that through focused attention? If you focus on the problem more, just like, again, if you have a broken foot, when you have a broken foot, you have to think about your broken foot more. You have to consider how you're moving it, exactly where you put it, exactly, what you do with it, right? So when you have a disability, you should focus on it more to make sure you have more careful steps. That's all. Okay? Lynn says, I start my plan with you. After that, I follow all your advice. Lynn, I appreciate that, but none of this advice is my advice. This advice is advice that's out there. It's always been out there. It could be your advice. It could be their advice. It could be her advice or his advice. These are thoughts that you could have just as easily as I can. You just didn't. That doesn't make them mine because I had them. My point is just that I don't own knowledge and I don't own good ideas. I'm just trying to help you discover them. And that's the word discover, dis meaning un or not, and cover, to uncover things, right? So I'm just trying to help you see things that were already there. All of this was already there. You just didn't see it, that's all. Okay? Okay, let's go on to our next aphorism. Let's see. How about the next one? Well, since we were talking about consistency, we'll do this one too. This is another one about habits and consistency, okay? What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. Discuss amongst yourselves. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. Thoughts? Consistency is the key. Right. That's right. Yeah. Habits are a lot easier than you think. It's about making sure that you keep looking down at your feet instead of too far ahead. Sometimes when you want to be consistent, if you look too far ahead, you lose your consistency. But if you keep your eyes down at your feet and you just keep a steady pace, then you can keep moving forward, right? So we actually tell people that. We say, keep your head down. Keep your head down just means keep pushing forward. Don't worry about what's coming. Don't worry about what's going on. Just keep your head down and keep pushing forward, and you'll get there. Okay? Positive thinking. Is it positive or is it negative or is it just behavioral? I don't know that these are positive or negative. It's just about your behavior and whether or not you are able to have consistency or not. Ooh, Carolina has another way to look at it. It's better to do little things every day than a lot in just one day. Yeah, that's another way to consider this. Yeah. But I can't continue. Why? Morienne says. I don't know. There is no good reason why you can't continue. You can. You've just told yourself you can't. If you say you can't, then you can't. So congratulations. You have what you wanted. You declared I can't. Once you say you can't, okay, you can't. You gave up. There is only one way to fail. Give up. Then you fail. Persistence matters more than occasional whims. Yeah? That's right. Yes. Good. And the woman who wrote this, Gretchen Rubin, she is a New York Times best-selling author. She writes books about happiness and things like that. She's a speaker, podcaster. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so there's our next aphorism. All right, here is the next one that we're going to talk about. Here's the next aphorism for today. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Discuss. Mona says, when you aren't educated, people push you away. Okay, interesting. That's one way to look at it, yes. More? Anyone? Bueller? Education pays back for everything. Not always. Not always. Education is its own reward. So I think that it's not a good idea to encourage people to think that learning will get them something. What learning gets you is development of character. That's what learning gets you, right? But I don't want anybody to think that the purpose of learning is to get things. The purpose of learning is to get more you. There's a slang in Dar you can paraphrase it with. We say a drop by drop it becomes the sea. Yeah, little by little, right? We get better. You pay more if you are ignorant. Okay, how? Billionaires who didn't go to college but still succeeded. Right. But, that's a good way to think about it too. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. There are billionaires who have lots and lots and lots of money, but actually not a lot of education. Okay, and I don't mean degrees. Just because you went to school and got a degree does not mean that you actually have education. And the reason why is because I would say a good 80% of people who go to college or university do not go to develop themselves. They only go to try to make more money. And that means that when you are there, you're not developing yourself, you're not developing your character. So you will get the degree, you will have the piece of paper, you will get the higher salary, but you will be ignorant still. Because your learning lacked proper purpose. Learning dedicated towards earning is not good learning. Learning dedicated towards earning is not good learning. Learning is supposed to be dedicated towards character development. That's what learning is supposed to be. Okay? And if you spent your time learning, trying to learn because you want to make more money, then you were driving the car and you were driving far down the road, but you're on the wrong road. You're on the wrong road. Ignorance makes you pay a heavy price while education only costs money. Yeah. Or time and effort, too. It costs more than just money, you know? Hazal says sometimes we need to ignore certain things to stay educated. I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Hazal. I don't think you need to ignore anything. An educated mind is like a rock. It is not moved by things. So that means that you should learn about everything and then make a proper decision about it. But you should not ignore anything for fear of thinking. Whatever concept is out there, confront it. If you don't confront it, it's like the ghost in the closet. By not confronting it, you give it more power. So, I would say you know, there are lots of stupid things in this world. That's for sure. But I wouldn't say you should ignore them. You should know what they are and then consider them properly. Meaning that if they don't deserve a lot of consideration, then don't give them a lot of consideration. Education gives freedom. Yes and no. Fernando is, it's a beautiful thing to learn about the world, but sometimes when you learn, You learn that you're actually in chains. You learn that the way things work is not so nice. So, learning does give you freedom of the mind. Learning is freedom. Learning is freedom. But um, sometimes what you learn will disturb you. Sometimes what you learn will disturb you, and that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. When you're disturbed is when you grow. You know? And it's like plants, right? When plants grow up, the taller they get, the stronger they get because wind, storms are blowing them every day, and that storm, that pressure that the wind gives strength to the plant. So pressure in life and things that you don't like, things that make you uncomfortable, those are the things that actually are making you stronger because they actually make you uncomfortable. It's your uncomfortability that makes you push back with knowledge to understand better. That's what gives you strength. Yeah, education has nothing to do with school. Education is about learning. School is one way to get educated, but it's not the only way. My mom didn't finish school, but she became a successful businesswoman. Well, again, because, I think we've made a big mistake. We've made a huge mistake because we have pushed education to a place where it's about making money. And that's a perversion of education. So you can't have a properly educated society if that society is learning for the purpose of survival, not for the purpose of growth. Education is for the purpose of growth. When you make education for the purpose of survival, it's not education at all anymore. So many people have gone to school and gotten education, but they didn't learn anything because they were focused on money, you know? Education is growth. Education is information plus growth. Information plus growth. So you can learn things but not be educated because you didn't consider them in order to grow from them. So there is a difference, right? You have to actually learn facts and understand their purpose and reason, not just be able to recite them. Education towards earning is a skill, yeah, but not a good one, not an admirable one. Sally, that's like encouraging a system that makes people struggle because but so yeah, Sally, let's look at it like this. It's kind of like saying there are some slaves who have figured out a way to do it better, but they're still slaves. So being good at a system that's not a good system doesn't mean a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's not something to brag about. Okay? If you've created a system that makes people struggle unnecessarily, then being good at that is nothing to brag about. Ray says we don't learn how to make money in school. Ray, what did you study in school? What was your degree, Ray? Did you study art? Did you study music? Did you study history? Philosophy? Or did you study economics and accounting and engineering and blah, blah, blah? You studied engineering because you wanted to make money. You chose your degree because you wanted to make money, not because you wanted to make the world a better place. And that's how sad for you that that's the choice that you had to make. You could have had a choice where you could choose to do the thing that makes the world a better place. But instead, you were in a system that forced you to do the thing that just makes enough money for you to survive. And survive better than others. Okay? Yeah, that is sad. That's what I'm trying to say is, look, you can justify it all you want. You can joke about it all you want. You can say, well, but that's the way the world works. It's not fair. Well, it's not fair. You're right. And you're part of the problem. If you're capitulating to the unfairness, then you are the system that's making it unfair. So, we're just trying to talk about character development and how education is part of that. Education's purpose is to make you a better person, and that makes the world a better person. Education's purpose is not for you to make more money. It's just not. Here in Brazil, people like lawyers are working as Uber to pay bills. Yeah, again, like there are systems that are economically more broken than others, and that makes it worse. That makes it worse. But that's what I'm trying to say is like just because if you are able to swim in waters that are dangerous waters, right? So the water is dangerous. It's a storm. It's a flood. And you're able to swim in that flood. Congratulations. But it's still a flood, which means that if you're talking about, well, I do really well. That's great. Good for you. But that doesn't change the fact that everything around you is a catastrophe. The system itself is a catastrophe. I'm good at that system, though. Congratulations. You're good at a catastrophe. Yeah. Ruby says education helps us to become mature, kind, and think independently. It should. It should. Yes, it should. It should. Catastrophe. It means a disaster. A terrible event is a catastrophe. Like a flood is a catastrophe. An earthquake is a catastrophe. Okay? All right, let's go on to the next aphorism. Let's do this one. Let's go back to Socrates. The only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. The only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. Discuss. Lynn says it means we never finish learning. Okay. And Mona says, don't have an ego. Nobody is perfect. Lily says, the more you know, the more you discover you know nothing. That's the one I was looking for most, Lily. Yeah, that's really the most important part about learning. Someone said it to me the other day, how do you stay humble? That's so, like, look, that assumes that I think that I'm smart when I do not. I do not. I absolutely consider myself to be stupid. And that's why I pursue learning all the time. The more you learn, the more you see how much you don't know. The more you learn, the more you see. Right? So it's just like when you climb up the mountain, you get to the top of the mountain, and now your view has increased. Your view of the world is bigger because you climbed the mountain. So now you know there's a lot more to know. Right? So that's a big part of it. Yeah. But there's also a Zen part of this too. In Zen, they say, you must empty your cup before you can fill it. You must empty your cup before you can fill it. What does that mean? That's right, Fernando. Socrates. Modesty helps you progress, okay? The Zen quote is that you must empty your cup before you can fill it. You must empty your cup before you can fill it. What does that mean? Anyone? Empty, that's right. Empty the teacup before filling it with water, right. Samiise. Hello, Ruby. If you want to learn something, you need to give up the old recognition. You should forget everything before you start something. Yeah, that's really what it is that if you already walk into the room with a cup that is full, then you cannot fill that cup with new knowledge. So every time you try to learn, you need to try to imagine that you know nothing. You need to be humble enough to pretend that you know nothing so that you can learn something more. Because the more you learn, the more you think you know in some ways. The more you learn, sometimes learning begets ego, meaning it creates ego. You learn things, then you start feeling like, I know more than you do. But with this, you really do have to stay humble the whole time. You have to remember that if you want to learn something, then you have to just walk in and say, I don't know anything. Show me what you know. And then after that, you can combine it with the information that you had previously to create a new flavor. Okay? Let go of your ego and be open to learning. That's right. Yeah, that's right. And that's a very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do. And again, it's knowledge becomes connected to ego because knowledge is power, and power makes us feel egotistical. You know, I want this, I want that. Me, right? So, okay, good. Well done. Let's move on to the next part. The next aphorism. Let's see. All right, let's do this one next. Here's the next one. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. What's it mean? Let's see. 以大山使鱼眼少事. Something like that. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Yeah. Little efforts day by day will achieve greatness, right? Do you guys, I assume my Chinese followers, I'm sure you must be familiar with that quote, right? In Chinese? Stream says it means we should start a project by very small steps. Great achievements begin with small efforts, right? Water drips through the stone. That's right. Yeah. There are so many ways to talk about this, right? There are so many good ways of thinking about this. Why do we use these? Why do we use these kinds of aphorisms and these mental pictures of mountains and water? Why do we do that? What function do aphorisms and quotes have? What function do they have? They motivate you. They remind you and they motivate you, right? They give you the energy, the enthusiasm. Why? Because they allow you to see a relationship between yourself and this idea. And when you can see that relationship, now it relates to you. It's personal. Now you can understand it and grow from it. Okay? Ooh, I like that, Lily. Yeah. There's no elevator to success. You must take the stairs. That's right. Yeah. All right. Alexander says the eyes are afraid, the hands do. Okay, good. Yeah. Let's see. We're going to do one more. One more here. One moment, I'm looking for a good one. Okay, how about this one? Sorry, one moment. All right, let's try this one. This is a quote from Viktor Frankl. This is a deep quote, and it has many meanings. It can apply to many, many different things. So let's look at this. Suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. Suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. Now, as I said, this quote could apply to many, many concepts, but let's apply it right now to the concept of education. So how does this quote apply to the concept of education? Suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. How does that fit into education? Take care, Lynn. Have a good day. Anyone? Failure is the best fortune. Interesting. Is that a Chinese quote that I don't know? Okay, so again, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. For me, this is about what we were talking about earlier, about how education should have meaning. When education has meaning, it becomes more powerful. When education's meaning is trite, then its power is trite. Trite means small and insignificant and unimportant and not valuable. So if your purpose in education was merely to make money, that's a trite goal, so you'll have trite results. And if that's all you want, then great. Good for you. But when learning has a bigger meaning, now you have passion. And this quote is very interesting because the word passion, what does passion mean? What does passion mean? What does passion mean? Ibrahim says it means love. Ornella says it means suffering. So Ornella is correct because she's Italian, so she's a little cheater. She knows that the word passion comes from the Latin word passio, and passio means suffering. So your passions are the things that you are so excited about that you are willing to suffer for. Passion is the things that you're so excited about that you're willing to suffer for them. I have passion for this, right? When you see a musician and you say they're so passionate, they practice all the time and they torture themselves with this practice. But you don't look at it like a bad thing. You say it's passion. It's not suffering. It's passion. There's a big difference. Passion is the suffering you choose. Passion is the suffering you choose. Okay? So, in this case, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. So, that means that when you struggle for something, whatever you're struggling for, if you have meaning behind it, it becomes passion. It's something you can endure because you want to. You want to suffer for this thing, right? But if you, like, let's say you study, you're in school and you are studying medicine, law, whatever. If you study without passion, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. But if you study with passion, now passion gives you the strength to endure suffering. Passion gives you the strength to endure suffering. So, I can remember when I was younger and I was learning the drums, I tortured myself with practice. And everybody I know who's good did the same. Every brilliant musician I knew, they tortured themselves with practice. They didn't do it just a little bit. It was hard. It was difficult. It was challenging. And they did it with joy. They suffered with joy. That's passion. That's what that means. All right? So, okay. That's where we're going to end for today. That was a Viktor Frankl quote. Viktor Frankl's a smart guy. He wrote some books. If you want to follow me, you can go to this link. Go to this link that I just put in the chat right there. That link has my YouTube channel. It has my website. It has my podcast. It has everything that I'm doing. Okay, so go to that link and you can find everything that you need to follow me. Okay? You think it might also be the mechanism behind religious beliefs? Well, that's the reason, Christine, you'd be correct in that the word passion originally was first used to describe Jesus Christ. And he suffered on the cross for people. So his suffering was for a purpose, and that purpose was for the people and religion, right? So that would be correct in that sense. The original meaning of the word actually comes from the passions of the Christ. Okay, passions of Christ. Okay, not to get religious because that's not what we're talking about, but that's where the word originally comes from. Okay, so I must go. I think I'm going to work on some videos today. I'm going to try to make a few videos to post today. Okay, some FAQ videos about answering questions about English. All right. Okay, I must go, but have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening wherever you live. I will be back tomorrow for another stream. If you don't know who I am and you haven't followed me yet, you should. I today was talking about quotes and philosophy and motivation and inspiration, but I also do teach live streams about reading and writing and listening and speaking and grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation and accents and all of that, right? So you should follow me and come back and see me again tomorrow. Okay? You're welcome, Carolina. I hope you have a lovely day. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye, everyone.